So we have a really fascinating mission for you today. We're doing a custom deep dive into a very short, highly concentrated piece of media.
Extremely concentrated, yeah.
Right. It's actually just a 35-second introductory hook from a project called The Choke Point, Iran and Global Energy Security. And, the reason we are dedicating an entire deep dive to a clip that's literally shorter than a television commercial is because of the sheer density of what it's trying to accomplish.
Oh, absolutely. The density is wild.
I mean, in just half a minute, this video tries to draw a direct, undeniable line from a remote waterway on the other side of the planet, straight to your wallet, your grocery bill, and your daily commute.
It is incredibly ambitious. I mean, most documentaries need like an hour to build that kind of systemic connection. But this one, it relies on a very specific, almost aggressive sensory approach to just compress the global economy into a single point of failure.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because watching this hook for the first time is practically a cinematic experience. It doesn't open with a talking head or a bunch of dry geopolitical statistics.
Thankfully, no.
Yeah, you hit play, and the screen is completely black. You are thrown into total sensory deprivation, and you're forced to rely entirely on the audio.
Which is a very deliberate psychological tactic, right? Like, it strips away the comfort and the distance that you usually have when you're consuming news media. You're just in the dark.
I found it really unsettling, honestly. You're staring at a black screen, and the first thing you hear is the low rumble of distant explosions. Then, overlapping that, you start hearing this frantic emergency radio chatter. And finally, the distinct wailing sound of oil tanker alarm sirens.
Which is such a specific sound.
Exactly. And before you even have a visual, your brain is already mapping out a crisis. The explosions establish a threat, the radio chatter creates a sense of human panic, and those specific marine sirens tell you exactly what kind of infrastructure is in the crosshairs.
Right. The stage is set before the narrator even utters a single syllable.
Yeah.
You are placed in a posture of high alert, which makes you, incredibly receptive to the data they are about to drop on you.
Now, before we get into that data, I do need to put a quick disclaimer out there.
Yeah, important to do that.
Because this video deals directly with live, complex geopolitical tensions involving Iran, the United States, and, global military assets. We're keeping this discussion strictly analytical. We are impartial observers today.
Right. Just looking at the facts.
Exactly. We aren't here to endorse a political viewpoint or critique foreign policy or, take sides in a global conflict.
Our focus is entirely on the mechanics. We are dissecting how this 35-second hook constructs its argument and, more importantly, exploring the real-world economic and geographical systems that make its claims plausible.
So, keeping that in mind, the video finally transitions out in the dark. We get this jarring cut to a satellite map of the Persian Gulf. The audio chaos drops out, and the narrator delivers 3 very sharp, punctuated sentences.
And they hit hard.
They really do. Quote, 1 missile strike, 1 blocked waterway, and within days, the global economy starts choking. And that specific word, choking, it really stuck with me. It's biological. It implies a living organism being deprived of oxygen.
What's fascinating here is how the visual matches that biological metaphor perfectly. The map zooms in on the Strait of Hormuz, and they've highlighted it in this intense glowing red.
Right.
It looks less like a shipping lane and more like a vascular pinch point, like a blocked artery.
The blocked artery is actually a much better way to think about it than just a road. Because the narrator then drops a statistic that honestly forced me to pause the video.
Yeah, the scale is hard to grasp.
It is. They claim that this one narrow strip of water carries nearly 1/5 of the entire planet's oil supply. 20%.
Yeah.
And they quantify that as 21 million barrels moving through there every single day.
The scale of 21 million barrels daily is almost impossible to visualize. We were talking about hundreds of millions of gallons of unrefined energy.
Every single day.
Yeah, every 24 hours, representing billions of dollars in capital, all needing to pass through a single, incredibly constrained physical space.
And let's play with an analogy here, because I was trying to wrap my head around this. It's like if you took a massive, multi-lane global highway system, the kind that spans continents.
Right, huge infrastructure.
Yeah, and suddenly you force all that high-speed, heavy traffic to merge onto a single fragile dirt road.
That's a great way to picture it.
But let me challenge that constraint for a second. Looking at the map they show, it looks narrow compared to the open ocean, sure. But we navigate narrow things all the time, right? I mean, the English Channel is narrow. Why is the Strait of Hormuz specifically framed as this existential bottleneck?
Well, because the satellite view is deceiving. At its narrowest point, the strait is about 21 miles wide.
Okay, 21 miles sounds pretty wide to me.
Right, it sounds wide. But you can't just sail a fully loaded supertanker anywhere in that 21 miles. These vessels are massive. Some are over 1,000 feet long and draw dozens of feet of water below the surface.
Wow, so they need deep water.
Exactly. They require very specific, dredged, deep water channels to avoid running aground. In the Strait of Hormuz, the inbound shipping lane is only 2 miles wide.
Only 2 miles.
Yeah, and the outbound lane is only 2 miles wide, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone.
Oh, wow. So to stick with our artery analogy, the neck might be 21 miles wide, but the actual carotid artery carrying the lifeblood is just a microscopic 2-mile tube.
And every drop of that 21 million barrels, the massive production capacity of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the UAE, Kuwait, it all has to thread the needle through that 2-mile outbound tube to reach the global market.
That is insane.
Yeah, and there is no alternative route that can handle that volume. That is exactly why it is the ultimate choke point.
Which brings us to the active threat the video introduces. The narrator says, quote, "And Iran can threaten all of it," end quote. The claim is that this 20% of the global oil supply can be shut down in 24 hours.
Right, a very fast timeline.
Incredibly fast. And they back this up with a very aggressive montage. We see a quick cut of a burning commercial tanker, followed instantly by footage of a U.S. aircraft carrier and then an Iranian missile launch.
Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly. And I have to admit, I watched that sequence and thought, isn't jumping straight from one burning boat to a U.S. aircraft carrier a bit melodramatic for a 35-second hook? Like, it feels like a massive leap to go from a localized incident to World War III in a single cut. Is that just for dramatic flair?
It seems like a massive leap until you understand the invisible mechanics of global maritime trade. You don't actually need a prolonged naval battle or a physical wall of warships to close a waterway.
You don't.
No. A modern blockade isn't necessarily built with steel, you know? It's built with actuarial tables in insurance offices in London.
Wait, actuarial tables? You're saying accountants are the ones who actually shut down the strait? How does that even work?
Think about the financial risk. A modern supertanker can easily be worth $100 just for the hull itself. And it might be carrying another $100 to $150 million worth of crude oil. Ordinarily, the maritime insurance on that voyage is a tiny, tiny fraction of a percent.
Just a normal cost of doing business.
Right. But if one commercial vessel is struck by a missile and left burning in that 2-mile wide channel, which is exactly what the video shows, the risk profile changes instantly.
Because suddenly it's an active war zone.
Exactly. The maritime insurance syndicates, places like Lloyd's of London, will immediately categorize the area as a high-risk zone and impose what's called a war risk premium.
A war risk premium.
Yeah, and these premiums can jump to 5% or even 10% of the hull's value for a single voyage. So suddenly, a ship owner is being asked to pay $10 million in insurance just to sail through the strait one time.
At which point the economics completely collapse. I mean, the shipping companies simply refuse to send their vessels in.
The cargo owners won't risk their oil, the ship owners won't risk their vessels, and the crews, the people, will refuse to sail into a shooting gallery. The traffic simply stops. The physical blockade is achieved through the threat of violence, making the route economically uninsurable.
Okay, that is a brilliant mechanic to understand. The waterway isn't blocked by a dam or a literal fleet of destroyers. Right. It's blocked by the commercial reality that nobody wants to drive a $250 million floating bomb into an active target range.
Exactly. It's too expensive to take the risk.
But that still leaves the aircraft carrier from the montage. Why does the U.S. military get involved so fast that it's in the same 24-hour sequence?
Because of the vacuum created by that insurance freeze. If commercial shipping halts, 20% of the world's daily energy is suddenly trapped inside the Persian Gulf.
And the world can't just wait around for that.
No, it can't. The global superpower is forced to respond immediately to reestablish deterrence, clear the burning wreckage, and guarantee safe passage so those insurance premiums drop and the oil can flow again. The video pairs the burning tanker and the aircraft carrier because one literally demands the other. It really is a geopolitical tripwire.
Which brings us to what I think is the most jarring pivot in the entire video. I mean, we've been operating at this very high macro level.
Right, talking about superpowers.
Yeah, we're talking about deep water channels, maritime insurance syndicates, and superpower military escalation. In a typical news broadcast, this is where the story ends. But this video makes a hard turn right into your living room.
It brings the lens all the way back down to the micro level.
So what does this all mean? The video cuts from the missile, launches straight to a graphic of a plunging stock market, and then to footage of incredibly long lines at a fuel station. And the narrator drops the thesis statement for the whole project.
This is the crux of it.
Quote, "This is not just a Middle East story. This is a story about your fuel price, your food price, your electricity bill, and possibly the next global war." End quote.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the hook proves its value. It systematically dismantles the illusion that international choke points are someone else's problem.
Right. It makes it
Personal, extremely personal. By linking a geopolitical conflict directly to the most mundane household costs, it forces the viewer to realize how fragile their own daily existence really is.
Let's trace those dominoes because they move really fast in the script. The fuel price is the obvious one, I guess. The strait closes, 20% of the oil is trapped, so gas at the pump gets expensive. But why does the video claim it happens in days? Shouldn't we have reserves or other suppliers who can step up?
Well, this comes down to the economic concept of inelastic demand.
Okay, what does that mean in this context?
Energy isn't a luxury good. If the price of coffee goes up 500%, you'd just stop drinking coffee, right?
I mean, I'd be cranky, but yeah, survive.
Exactly. But if the price of oil spikes, you still have to commute to work, hospitals still need to run their backup generators, the global logistics network still has to move cargo. People will pay virtually any price to secure the energy they need to survive.
So when 20% of the supply vanishes overnight, the price doesn't just go up 20%, it goes parabolic.
Because every nation, every corporation, and every individual is suddenly engaged in a bidding war for the remaining 80%.
Wow.
And that panic prices in immediately, long before the physical shortage even hits the gas stations. The market anticipates the starvation and reacts violently.
Okay, that explains the fuel lines and the gas prices. But the video explicitly lists your food price next. And I think for a lot of people, the connection between a blocked waterway in the Middle East and like a loaf of bread at their local grocery store is a bit murky.
It's murky because we really don't like to think about the fact that modern agriculture is essentially the process of turning fossil fuels into food.
Right, turning fossil fuels into food.
Start with the fertilizer. The vast majority of the world's commercial agriculture relies on synthetic nitrogen fertilizers. And the primary input for making that fertilizer through something called the Haber-Bosch process is natural gas and petrochemicals.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Without a constant, massive flow of hydrocarbons, we literally cannot grow enough crops to feed the global population.
So the raw material of the crop itself is dependent on the energy market.
And that's just the beginning. I mean, think about the tractors and combines that plant and harvest the food. They run on diesel. The global cold chain, the refrigerated trucks and cargo ships that transport produce across continents before it rots runs on oil.
Right.
Even the plastic packaging that keeps it fresh on the shelf is a petroleum product. By the time you buy an apple or a steak at the grocery store, you are purchasing an item that has consumed massive amounts of energy at every single stage of its existence.
I've never thought about a grocery store like that. When oil spikes, the cost to grow, harvest, package, and ship every single calorie spikes with it.
Precisely. The price of food is intrinsically linked to the price of energy. The video isn't exaggerating, it's just highlighting a supply chain reality that is usually invisible to the consumer.
And they hit one more household domino in that sequence, your electricity bill, which again disrupts this mental box we put oil into.
Yeah.
We tend to think oil equals cars, but the video is arguing that oil equals everything.
And it does, especially when we talk about systemic shocks. While oil itself is only a portion of global electricity generation, I mean, we use coal, nuclear, renewables, and natural gas, the global energy market is entirely interconnected.
So bleeds over.
Exactly. If a massive chunk of oil disappears, countries will frantically scramble to buy up liquefied natural gas or coal to burn in their power plants just to make up the deficit.
Which creates a bidding war for those resources, too.
You got it. The contagion spreads across every energy commodity. Suddenly, the cost to run the turbines that power the electrical grid skyrockets. And when electricity gets expensive, everything gets expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The factories that make your clothes, the servers that host your internet, the water treatment plants that supply your home, all of their operating costs jump. It is systemic, unavoidable inflation attacking the viewer from every possible angle simultaneously.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The narrator lists fuel, food, and electricity, these deeply personal domestic pain points. But then they end the sentence with, quote, and possibly the next global war.
Right.
They pull you all the way back out to the macro level. They are arguing that the domestic inflation and the geopolitical conflicts are part of the same feedback loop.
Because severe economic desperation on a global scale is the most reliable catalyst for war. If the global economy is truly choking, if food prices are tripling and power grids are failing, nations cannot just sit idle.
They have to do something.
They have to. The domestic pressure on governments to secure energy resources becomes an existential crisis. The video brings it back to a potential global war because it's showing how economic starvation forces the hands of superpowers.
Oh, it's a chain reaction.
Completely. The localized strike they showed in the beginning triggers the financial blockade, which triggers the global energy shortage, which inevitably triggers a massive military conflict to break the bottleneck.
It is a terrifyingly elegant circle.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole discussion completely changes how you experience a piece of media like this. It's so easy to watch a 35-second clip of jets and explosions and dismiss it as just more distant noise on the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you actually break down the mechanics behind the imagery, it's staggering. Let's just recap the journey this short video just forced us to take.
Okay, so we began in the dark, relying purely on the audio cues of explosions and marine sirens to basically bypass our normal media filters and put us on alert. We then looked at the cold geography of the Strait of Hormuz, not as a wide ocean, but as a microscopic, 2-mile-wide carotid artery that 21 million barrels of oil must squeeze through every single day.
And then we explored the invisible mechanics of a modern blockade, learning that you don't actually need a massive armada to stop global shipping. You just need to create enough risk to make the route uninsurable in London, which instantly traps 20% of the world's energy and forces a superpower military response.
Right. And finally, we followed the consequences of that inelastic demand directly to the local grocery store. We unpacked how modern agriculture and electricity generation are so deeply tethered to the uninterrupted flow of hydrocarbons that a blocked strait half a world away instantly translates into skyrocketing food costs and systemic inflation at home.
It's a masterclass in establishing stakes. And honestly, looking at how effectively this tiny piece of media traces the line from a distant waterway to the very food on our plates, it leaves us with a lot to think about regarding how fragile our everyday lives actually are.
It really does. And I think it raises a broader, highly provocative question for you to walk away with. If a mere 35-second video can so convincingly expose our total precarious reliance on a single 2-mile-wide channel in the Persian Gulf, we really have to ask ourselves, how many other invisible choke points is modern life secretly depending on?
That's a scary thought.
It is. Whether it's the handful of factories producing the world's advanced microchips, the concentration of critical mineral refining in a single nation, or the vulnerable network of undersea data cables that carry the global internet, how many other fragile, glowing red lines are out there, quietly holding the illusion of our stability together?
That is a brilliant and frankly deeply unsettling thought to end on. We started this deep dive by talking about the magic of just flipping a switch and assuming the lights will come on. This script rips the curtain back on just one of the thousands of vulnerable threads making that magic possible. It really makes you wonder which invisible thread might snap next. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been an intense analysis of a very short piece of text, but the mechanics behind it are fascinating. Keep questioning those supply chains, keep looking behind the curtain, and we'll see you next time.